What would you say if I told you that nearly half your life is spent looking at an electronic device of one kind or another? Whether it be your phone, the TV, a video game, half your life. Today we're looking at how the influx of technology has affected human interaction. Just recently I upgraded my cell phone and it has a mode called screen time on it where it likes to give me a weekly review on how much time I spend looking at this little box. I was quite surprised at the result. Its analysis told me that I spend a minimum of 4 hours a day looking at my phone. And that's just my phone. That doesn't even include the time I spend on the computer doing my homework or looking at TV, watching TV when I get home from work. That is just my phone. If you had to guess, how much time a day do you think you'd spend looking at electronic devices? Keep that number in your mind. And at the end of this speech, after considering a few different points, look again at that number and see if you would guess the same. These days, technology is more than an intangible concept of tools and systems used by businesses and end users for convenience and automation of complex tasks. It also shapes the way that societies and people behave, the way they grow, the way we evolve and develop, both within our own lives and in our relationships with others. In 2019, Markham Hyde wrote an article for Time magazine outlining his research that found heavy internet use was associated with significant social, psychological, and occupational impairments. The study found that excess screen time caused detrimental effects such as poor grade performance among students, discord among couples, and reduced work performance among employees. Increased isolation, reduced social interaction and social skills, and increased human-to-machine interactions are all a result of an overuse of technology, which has created a wall between people. That is what we are going to explore today. Our first main point on this topic is time. As we talked about from my personal experience, the time we spend on our electronic devices is more than likely a lot more than what we expect. According to Scripps Medical Journal, on average, adults spend about 11 hours per day, 11 hours per day staring at some kind of screen, whether that be a phone, tablet, TV, or another type of electronic device. For some people, a portion of this time is unavoidable. For example, if you work in an office or are doing school from home. However, taking a look can help evaluate how much of this time is actually necessary. We're going to take a look at a quick visual aid on the breakdown of the time the average American spends on different devices. We have live TV, the radio, your smartphone, the internet on your PC, gaming consoles, watching DVDs or Blu-rays, and multimedia devices. I know it's kind of hard to tell in black and white, but as you can see, this entire chart is made up of different pieces of our lives that we spend on some electronic device or another. How much time does an average person per day spend on their phone? There are several different sources on how much estimated time the average American spends on their phone. A common consensus that I found after estimating them out was around 5.4 hours per day, as noted by Yvonne Malenkovic on a tech journal written in February 2020, so not that long ago. He notes that people are apt to check their phones up to 58 times per day. Can you imagine that? 58 times per day. And for the majority of that time, we probably don't even think about it. How does this time affect our health? Do you ever think about how much time you spend looking at your phone or at some kind of electronic device affects your health? Many adverse health effects come from spending too much time in front of a screen. According to the Mayo Clinic, excessive or poor quality screen time is linked to obesity, irregular sleep, behavioral problems, and impaired social skills. Another category would be video games and TV. If we aren't on our phone, what else might we be watching or doing to pass the time? For the younger generation, this is most often some type of gaming outlet. It is estimated that gamers spend a minimum of 1 to 1.5 hours either on computer games or gaming consoles per day. For the more mature, perhaps the amount of time spent in front of the TV watching a favorite cooking show or old war stories, or binge watching movie after movie to help pass the time. This is estimated again at around 5 hours per day. So if you add all of that up, the time you spend on your phone, the time we spend watching TV, the time you may or may not spend playing video games, like we said earlier, that is 11.5 hours per day. 11.5 hours of our lives. We know not everyone spends that much time on their phone, TV, or gaming consoles. The statistics are not meant to point a finger, but rather bring into question how we manage our time and how that may or may not be affecting our communication and our relationships. Let's take a look at how technology has affected our ability to communicate in our relationships. Has technology had an effect on how we communicate with each other? Well, ask yourself, would I rather call someone on the phone, have a face-to-face conversation, or just send a text message to that person? Everyone has their personal preference, but for myself, among my group of friends, I know most of them would rather just send the call to voicemail and then text the person. Given this, have we become socially awkward because the need for person-to-person interaction is not as important as it once was? A young researcher named Emily Drago from Elon University took it upon herself to conduct a study on the effects of technology on face-to-face communication. She found that the rapid expansion of technology is negatively affecting face-to-face communication. People are becoming more reliant on communicating with friends and family through technology and are neglecting to engage personally, uninhibited by phones and devices, even when they are actually in the presence of other people. Given this, has technology affected our relationships? Do we spend a healthy amount of time with each other apart from our electronic devices? Any relationship you do on relationships will eventually include some piece of advice on setting aside your electronic distractions to enable you to spend an uninterrupted quality time with each other. Whether that be your family, your friends, your spouse. In a medical journal review on technology and relationships, a counselor, Jessica Wade, says, "The emotional connections forged by couples through body language, nonverbal communication, tone of voice, and facial expressions are essential to the relationship and impossible to duplicate with technology." Person-to-person contact is irreplaceable. There is no amount of technology that can give you that same satisfaction and that same feeling that speaking to someone does on a personal level. On that note, our relationships that put emphasis on minimizing technology and technological interaction, healthier, happier relationships. Think about your best practices. Does it make you happier when your significant other or your family puts aside all their distractions, puts aside their phones, and places their focus entirely on you? Given the statistics that we have seen, Be willing to ask yourself if the level of technology in your life is healthy. Should it change? Would you want it to change? We all want to live long, healthy lives, right? And if this is an element that is taking away from that, perhaps it's time to reevaluate it. Your time is one of the very few things in life that you can never get back. No matter how hard we try, once it escapes, there is no going after it. Communication is one of the key elements of being able to understand each other's thoughts and feelings. Let's not get so lost in an alternative reality that we forget how important the present one is. Consider all of these things. Consider the statistics that were provided. Are those countless hours you spend in front of a screen worth giving half your life for? Just something to think about.